Thank you so much for staying with us on this beautiful, beautiful Wednesday edition of Wake Up Nigeria. It's, of course, a Wednesday edition, and we have nutrition for you. And returning for the second time right here on Wake Up Nigeria, I have with me Nneka Ogboi, who is an advocate for child nutrition, is the visionary founder of Mashed Baby Food and 100% natural baby food, company dedicated to crafting wholesome complementary meals for infants and toddlers. Welcome back to Wake Up Nigeria. And of course, today we're talking about what are some practical tips for reducing food wastage at home. And I think this is a very, very important topic, considering the price of food, also considering the light situation. So we definitely need to have those tips on how best to conserve as much as we can and preserve, of course. Welcome back to Wake Up Nigeria, as I said.
Thank you very much for having me back.
Okay, so now tell me, what are the first tips? What are the first tips we need to know?
Yes, very important, because food waste is something that affects even households. So many times when we talk about food waste, people always think about, the farmers on an industrial level.
Yes.
But you'll be surprised to know that even in families, we end up wasting a lot of food.
A lot of food.
And just like you said, with the price of food now, you can't afford to keep wasting. I saw a journal a few days ago by MDPI where it says that families waste up to 7% per month.
Wow.
So if you put that all together in a year, you can actually feed your family for an additional month.
Wow.
That's how much food you're wasting.
You actually waste. Well, I remember growing up and my mom literally she talks about how, oh, don't waste. God doesn't like waste. Doesn't have. So tell us, let's start with the first tip. What was the first tip you'll give us on how to preserve food?
Definitely. So first and foremost, planning. I'm a big fan of planning, because when you plan, you can really plan for the things that you want to buy.
Sometimes you plan, and me, at the point, you really don't feel like eating what you planned for.
In this economy, sometimes you have to, stick to it. But if you can't, at least it's in the plan. So if you don't feel like it today, you might feel like it next tomorrow, right? So planning is always a good first step. But then going further than that, you have things like proper storage. That's a big part of reducing food waste. So in the economy right now, people are trying to get bargains. So you buy in bulk so that you can get discounts. But if you're not able to store those things properly, they end up going to waste. You lose your money, you lose your produce. It's a lose-lose situation all around. So being able to store properly. How can you store your foods properly? For example, leafy vegetables are best stored where there's reduced moisture. So you want to wrap it in either paper towel or an old newspaper before you put it in the fridge. You don't have to wash it before doing that. When you want to use it, you wash it and then use it, because that moisture is what makes it go bad faster. If you buy tomatoes when it's in season, you can blend, steam, blend, and freeze. Right? So it takes up less space in your freezer, and it can last for as long as 6 months to a year. So you're good storing
as long
properly.
as it's frozen.
As long as it's frozen, exactly. So practical tips or practical ways that families can preserve food, usually by freezing if you have access to a steady power supply, or drying. Drying is a very popular way as well. And then as an individual, when you go to shop, if you're shopping in an open market, the people you're buying from are very experienced with the goods that they're selling. Talk to them, ask them. Ask them, what's the best way that I can keep this fresh? Because they don't throw their goods out after 2 or 3 days. They know how to keep those things. So it's important that you start to have these conversations so you don't throw the food out as well. Yes, so planning and then proper storage, very important. Another thing that's very good is being creative with your recipes. I mean, you made rice and stew yesterday. That leftover rice can turn into fantastic fried rice tomorrow.
I'm telling you. And it's even better when the rice is actually a day old.
It tastes better. Even the yam that you boiled yesterday can turn into fried yam today, or yam potato. So don't throw away leftovers. You can repurpose them into creative recipes that you can still enjoy as a family. Also, for example, I hear parents, because I'm focused on children, right? I hear parents say, oh, I want my kids to eat more fruits, but when I buy a whole watermelon, by the time we take one slice, it's going bad, it's too ripe, and all of those things. Fruits are one thing that should never be thrown away. You can literally freeze those and then use them later. A fantastic way is smoothies, right? I dare any parent listening to me right now, take a banana, any other frozen fruit of your choice, put some milk in there and blend it, give it to your child. 9 times out of 10, they love it. So it's an easy way to use up the rest of the fruits. It's an easy way to add fruits, more fruits to your child's diet, because that's what a lot of parents are always looking for. So win-win again, right? So, and then finally, one last thing I'd like to share is being able to read and understand labels. So when you buy packaged goods, usually things come with either an expiry date or a best before date. And some people see a best before and think, oh, once the date has reached, I can't use it anymore. But there's a difference. With expiry, that's a hard cutoff, right? But whereas with best before, it just means that after this date, exactly. So you can still use it. So you don't have to throw out that food. You don't have to waste it.
How long more can you use it after best before? Let's not leave people totally off.
Yeah. So it depends on the item, right? So it really depends. But usually you can actually go as far as even 6 months. But trust your instinct. So taste it, smell it, just gauge it that way.
It's changing form or taste and all that.
Yeah, so, I mean, you can reduce your house waste by doing number of these things.
This. Amazing. I think 4 amazing tips that will definitely work if you actually just put it to practice. Now, let me take you back to planning now, right? I know, so I just want to ask, like just off the top of your head, what would you say a proper planning, let's say for a week, or should I say 2 weeks or to a month, what should it look like?
So it depends on what your family likes to eat. So if your family likes the typical Nigerian family, there are certain staples that are always there. So your rice, your beans, your yam. What style of rice are you making this week? If it's fried rice, then there are certain vegetables you need. If it's jollof rice, there are certain other things that you need. So you want to fix in those staples, right? And then besides the staples, you also want to have some snacks or some nutritious snacks. Let me put it that way, because we tend to confuse snacks with treats nowadays. So what kind of nutritional gaps are you going to be filling with, let's say with fruits or vegetables? Don't go and buy a whole bunch of bananas and then a big watermelon and a pineapple. Chances of finishing that might be tough. So focus on one this week, and then next week you can go ahead and buy the other one, right? So just depending on your family size, use your staples, add in some nutritional things that you know you will consume within the week. And
so would you say it's best to plan for a week or a month? Shorter or longer?
It depends on the individual. For me, for example, I plan for every 2 weeks, right? Although I shop for the month, and then we do the cooking for like 2 weeks. So that's what works for me. So every family, try it out and then see what works best for you.
So now I'm cooking for like 2 weeks. You talk about preservation as well, because a lot of people are like, okay, fine, it's good to cook. I mean, yeah, of course, in bulk and store away and all of that. So people talk about now so people talk about freezing and unfreezing foods, and people say, okay, fine, when you cook something like rice, for instance, make sure you consume it within a particular number of days or things like that. So how do you balance all of that? Because I know those are some things that people struggle with at times as well. Because like if you store rice for like, let's say like 4 or 5 days, it might not have the same texture and all of that. So how do we balance that out?
Fantastic. So again, with Nigerian staple meals, a lot of our soups, stews are good things that you can easily freeze. One thing that works well for me when I cook in batches, I store in small containers, because you're right, you don't want to freeze and defrost, refreeze, right? So store in smaller containers so you can take out a portion and just use that. And then for things like the rice, you can boil on the go. So you don't have to cook that in. It doesn't take a lot of time to cook that as well. So you just do that as you need it.
All right, amazing. Thank you so much. 4 amazing tips. We'll definitely be trying now. Thank you so much, and definitely looking forward to our next edition with you as well next week.
Thank you.
All right, guys, you heard that, right? So do everything you need to make sure you cut down wastage in your home. And that's it on Nutrition for today.